Hello, and welcome back to the Casey Undercover Live reading series, where, writing in real time, we are going through the first book entitled Redacted, where Casey, having been ousted from her wire service for exposing the wrong entities, has returned to her hometown where she's currently working in the library. She's been given a notebook by an elderly gentleman, only to have him or someone who looks like him turn up dead on her property. This may look like mainstream fiction, a disgraced journalist chasing a story, but it's really another way of asking deeper questions about truth, narrative control, memory, and who gets to decide what's real. Story lets us feel the stakes instead of arguing about them from a distance. As we enter Chapter 9, Casey knows the notebook wasn't nothing. As the chapter begins, she feels the shift. This isn't about curiosity anymore. It's about whether she keeps digging when it's clear someone would rather she didn't. Okay, and here we go into Chapter 9. There's something deeply unsettling about the phrase half cop. I mean, what does that even mean? Is he half trained? Does he only enforce half the laws? Am I legally required to respect him only every other Thursday? Because if I'm being honest, Deputy Stan Holloway, while Amal Singh's part-time protector, full-time small-town trivia champion, a man whose primary law enforcement strategy seems to be just don't cause trouble and we'll all get along, doesn't inspire confidence. Stan isn't really a cop. He's more of a cop-shaped suggestion, a guy who owns a badge, but who definitely takes naps in his patrol car. A man whose greatest adversary is a stack of paperwork he refuses to complete. But the truly hilarious part? We don't even get him full-time. Oh no, our town has to share him. Which leads me to the Solomon-like conundrum. How exactly do you share a person? Does he alternate days like a divorced dad with a messy custody agreement? Does he patrol half the county at a time, forcing crimes to happen on a rotating schedule? Or, and hear me out, is it more metaphysical? Because if you tell me we have half a cop, I can't help but picture Stan literally split down the middle, a grizzled torso in one town and a slow-moving pair of legs in the other, which naturally makes me think about King Solomon's biblical judgment, where two women claim to be the mother of the same baby, and the king, in his infinite wisdom, offers to cut the child in half so they can share. A deeply disturbing solution, but stay with me here. If our town gets half a cop and the next town over gets half, does that mean we only get half the justice? Do crimes committed on the border count as full crimes or just misdemeanors? If Stan arrests someone on our side of town, does he have to handcuff them only on their dominant hand? If a robbery is committed in one town, but the getaway happens in the other, does Stan have to stop at the county line and wave them off with an apologetic shrug? Maybe crime enforcement is a coin flip. Heads, he takes it seriously. Tails, he lets you off with a coupon for free coffee at Joe's Diner and Food Emporium. Yes, it really is named that. I sigh and lean against the chipped countertop of my teensy, authentically vintage kitchen, my brain tipping to overflow, considering the nature of half cops instead of unraveling the events of the last, 48 hours? Time has lost meaning at this point because the universe because the universe hates me personally. I have two law enforcement officers standing in my living room, tracking mud onto my floorboards, one of whom is Stan Holloway, the town's part-time deputy and full-time guy who doesn't want to do his job, and the other, a surly state policeman who, in a different setting, might be considered attractive in a rugged, drinks black coffee, and knows how to gut a deer blindfolded sort of way. But there's something off about him, something that feels premeditated as I catch him watching me, watching him. Fantastic. Just what I needed, another set of eyes on me. There's poetry in this moment, though. A dead man in my yard, a state cop with a face like a backwoods tragedy, a half cop who smells of coffee cake and burden, and me, an exiled journalist standing in the center of it all, clutching a notebook that someone literally died to give me. And of course, because the universe is hilarious, I also have a rogue bear problem. I don't know what's more ridiculous, that my door lock was ransacked by Chubbs, the break and enter bandit, or that I have decided which is the biggest or that I have to decide which is the biggest immediate threat. One, the state trooper who definitely has an agenda. Two, the mystery book giver whose corpse is decomposing on my property. Three, the fact that Jenna is soon to be charming said state trooper out of confiscating my only lead. Or four, the nagging suspicion that everything I thought was dead and buried in this town is clawing its way back to the surface. They're standing just off my porch now. Voices low, but not low enough. Stan, local badge, cap pushed back. The state cop, Detective Mal Whitaker, he said, arms folded, studying the tree line like it might offer him something worth tracking, measuring, or taking down. Stan exhales. We've had hunters out here all week. Whitaker shrugs. Season's open. Stan nods toward the tarp in my yard. Single gunshot, no sign of struggle, wallet's still there. Wasn't a robbery, Whitaker says definitively. Whoever did it didn't care about the wallet. The state cop glances toward my house, unimpressed. Guy wanders onto private property, could have been trespassing, could have startled someone, you know how it goes. Stan scratches his jaw. No weapon on him. Could have been dropped, could have been carried off. These woods swallow things. A pause. Stan lowers his voice. You thinking what I'm thinking? Whitaker rolls the toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other. I'm thinking rural county, one shot, no witnesses, no cameras, and a man who doesn't look local. Stan shifts. You want a canvas? Whitaker gives a small, humorless smile. For what? Someone who's heard something 3 hours ago? It's almost dark. Another pause. Stan says, we could flag it as suspicious. Whitaker offers, or we could flag it as an unfortunate incident pending autopsy and see what the lab says. The way he says it makes it clear what the lab is likely to say. Stan glances toward my cottage. And the homeowner? Whitaker follows his gaze. Journalist, right? Stan nods. Whitaker sighs. Let's not hand her a conspiracy. Stan hesitates just long enough to show he understands exactly what that means. Unfortunate incident, he repeats quietly. Whitaker nods. For now. They straighten up and turn toward my porch, faces arranged into official neutrality until they realize I've been listening to them. Stan's eyes widen, caught schoolboy style, as he clears his throat and adjusts his cap. He offers an apologetic half smile. Whitaker's gaze settles on me with slow, deliberate appraisal, a malicious glint in his eyes. It's a look that tells me that nothing about this man can be trusted. It also transmits that some kind of agreement has been sealed and that I'm not part of it. So let's get this straight, I say when we're back inside. I tap a finger against my temple, mocking deep thought. I've got an anonymous leather-bound notebook that someone delivered to me. Said notebook is filled with ominous phrases like, the board will deny everything, and broken seals, and keep the ledgers hidden. Totally normal, nothing at all related to the dead body in my yard. Stan shifts his weight like he'd rather be anywhere else. And honestly, same, buddy. I continue, mostly for my own sanity, because now they've riled me up, trying to dismiss my obvious connection and forcing me to weave the pieces together for them. I continue. Said notebook conveniently references an old mining site that, surprise, surprise, might not have actually collapsed in 1975 like history wants us to believe. Oh, and did I mention there's a family tree in there? My name right in it? which means this isn't just history, it's my history, which of course means this isn't just me being nosy, it's actually got something to do with me, though I don't know how. Do you? Silence settles in, filled only by the faint creak of Stan's shifting feet. Whitaker twirls the toothpick in his mouth and glares. I forge ahead. And because I have truly exceptional luck, I now have a dead man in my front yard who, unless he was very bad at gun safety, was very much murdered. Oh, right, by a gunshot to the chest, execution style. But sure, let's just pretend this is a weird coincidence. I glance at them, waiting for someone to say something useful. Stan exhales heavily, rubbing his forehead. Mrs. Layton, you got a habit of finding yourself in these kind of situations? Ms., I say, please, giving him a head shake. Not married. I prefer my decisions to be non-binding. Whitaker speaks. His voice contains a dark edge that deepens my earlier impression of him. Ms. Miss Layton, you were saying a man showed up, handed you some old notebook, and now someone ends up dead on your property? I narrow my eyes. Not someone. He looks like the man who gave me the notebook. Exactly like him. I'm saying I have no idea why someone would drop off a cryptic notebook and then immediately become a corpse in my yard. But since we're asking questions, who is the dead man? And that's what we're here to find out. His gaze lingers on me a little too long, sweeping my body from head to foot. Yeah, no, I don't like that. Small towns love their secrets. That's what I've learned. They bury things, not just in their attics and basements, but in their silences and in their conveniently forgotten records. Ask too many questions, and you don't get answers, you get looks. You get doors closing quickly, voices lowering when you walk by. And then, if you're really lucky, you get men like Stan Holloway. Stan is what happens when law enforcement is more of a suggestion than an actual practice. If real police work is surgery, then Stan is a guy who puts band-aids on bullet wounds and calls it a day. He's been here forever, long enough that people don't expect him to do much more than show up, sigh heavily, and look vaguely concerned before moving on. Honestly, I'd take 1,000 Stans over Mal Whitaker, though, state cop and potential problem, because Whitaker has moved from watching me too closely to shooting full body assessments at my recently named partner, Jenna. He looks like someone who should be excuse me. He looks like someone who should be an unassuming good old boy, someone you'd see at a diner, sipping his coffee, talking about whatever deep things small town men who like to shoot small animals converse about. But as I say, there's something off about him, something too still, too practiced, and too aware. When a man like that wants something from you, you don't let your guard down, even for a second. I wouldn't put anything past this guy, including murdering me in my sleep. I clear my throat. Great. While you do that, here's my updated to figure out list. I reel them off, not because I particularly want to share, but because I'd prefer not to end up dead. And yes, I admit it, I didn't want Jenna dead either. What I've learned so far. 1, there's a notebook. It's old, handwritten, and someone gave it to me. Said notebook references the board, which could mean anything from an evil corporation to a literal Masonic death cult. At this point, I wouldn't rule either out. 3, the mining collapse in 1975, probably staged, which means something was or is buried there, and I'm guessing it isn't coal dust. 4, there's a family mention in the notebook, and I'm on it. And I'm in it. This is not a coincidence. 5, the dead guy in my yard was once alive, and now he's dead, execution style. Which means someone wanted him silenced. Do they want me silenced too? Jenna has become way too excited by this. She's busy calculating all the new story trajectories the documentary is now taking. I swear to God, she's seconds away from setting up dramatic reenactments. I add, What I need to figure out. Who was the dead guy? Who wanted him dead and why? What exactly does the phrase broken what exactly does the phrase broken seals refer to? Not cute gray seals, I'm assuming, but we all know what happens when you assume. What is the meaning of black vein? Another mention in the book. What does find the lost maps before they do mean? If I had to guess, it means someone went to a lot of trouble to cover something up. How does my father's work tie into all of this? Because it does. There's no way it doesn't. What exactly is buried at the Crow mining site? And this one I keep to myself. How do I keep Jenna from turning this into a full blown Netflix spectacle? We'll call that extravaganza. I exhale and twirl a strand of hair around my index finger, around and around, thinking. So, I say, gesturing in the direction of the dead guy in my yard, what's the plan? Or am I just supposed to live with the knowledge that murder is a feature of my property? Stan pulls his hat down like he wishes it could swallow him. The state trooper watches me. His mouth twitches like he's amused. For the first time, I realize something. He doesn't seem surprised. Not by the body, not by the notebook, not by my dissertation. This is more unnerving than anything else. I'm teetering on the edge of a breakthrough when he puts his hand out for the notebook. My notebook. What have I been thinking? If I hadn't been so rattled by the appearance of a body followed by law enforcement's grievous ineptitude, I would have hidden the notebook instead of making it the smoking gun that everyone now wants. Chalk it up to my lack of experience in a murder where I am the central character. I jerk away. Not that I blame him for wanting it, it's evidence. The fact that Whitaker is looking at me like I'm now a suspect, oh, that's the cherry on top. Why did I tell him about the notebook? Me and my need for surprise revelations. Hercule Poirot, I am not. I'll need that, Mal the Maleficent says, holding out a hand. I clutch the notebook tighter. He doesn't blink. That wasn't a request, miss. Oh, great. Misogynist, too. Stan, in a grand show of law enforcement, lets out a long suffering sigh, shifting from one foot to the other again. I suspect the reason he's even here is because it's easier than dealing with the paperwork later. Miss Layton, he says, rubbing his forehead, give him the book. I glare at Stan like he's personally betrayed me, which, to be clear, he has. Whitaker, meanwhile, remains with his hand outstretched, his enjoyment over my discomfort obvious. I feel his danger, not in a gun-waving psycho way, but in a I know how to manipulate a situation way. The kind of person who's 10 steps ahead without waiting for you to realize it. I should have handed the damn notebook over. Let them play cops and detectives while I quietly hide away into the world forgives me. But I can't, because the moment I do, I disappear into the void, and the mystery that has dogged me since the age of 16 stays locked away forever. As for the law enforcement bureaucracy, the notebook gets locked up, hidden, forgotten, and there's something about it that's important to Whitaker now. I don't know what for certain. It's just a feeling I get. Maybe it's his form of power play. Whitaker's expression hardens in the face of my hesitation, and his stance shifts menacingly. And then, Jenna. Gentlemen, she interrupts with a loud purr, stepping between us, her blonde ponytail swishing in perfect weaponized distraction. I kind of want to hug her. She tilts her head and coos. Mal, is it? She asks wide-eyed enough to be ingenuous. Sure, you could take the notebook, she says, touching his arm, but how will we ever make sense of it if you lock it up somewhere? Mal blinks, caught off guard, just enough for getting in. You want the information, right? So what if we photograph it first? That way, we don't lose anything and you still get your evidence. Her purr becomes pronounced as she looks directly at Whitaker, whose toothpick stills. How about I drop it off at your office tomorrow, detective? Whitaker has gone completely still. I can see his how can I turn this into a sex date gears roaring to life. I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. Jenna's giving him full on enchantment, the kind that's gotten her out of untold number of speeding tickets and other unnamed infractions. Fine, he says, looking a bit off center. I want it on my desk first thing tomorrow. Jenna beams. Of course. And, where's your office again? Oh, she's good. Whitaker rattles off his location as Jenna nods enthusiastically, making a show of looking responsible while waving him toward the door. Great, she chirps. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some scanning to do. And just like that, they enter their cars, and for a moment, I think we're free. Until I remember Whitaker's expression as I caught him and Stan trying to sweep a murder under the rug. It had turned into something feral, the look of a man who wasn't surprised. Not by the body, not by the notebook, not by me. The smile that followed was thin, rehearsed, the kind meant to settle, not reassure. And that's when it lands harder than a gunshot could. The decision hadn't just been made. A decision hadn't just been made. It was sealed and maintained as if they not only knew who the dead man was, but why he was killed. And this part, I cannot just file away to retrieve it later and why he ended up in my yard. Almost as if it had been planned. It wasn't that I wasn't part of it, it was that I was a complication, one that had just been eliminated. Jenna, I state suddenly, you have no idea what we've just stepped into. She flashes a happy grin. I know. She thinks we stepped into a mystery. I think we've stepped into something that's been waiting for us. Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye now.